This is Hot Mike.
Hot Mike.
On the networks of WDAY.
WDAY.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour 2, ready to rock and roll on this Tuesday morning. Steve Blackwell will join us about a half hour. Dragons getting ready for Wayne State. We'll preview that and chat about another big day for his team on Saturday coming up in just a few minutes. Mentioned the latest big school poll is out for North Dakota high school football. Came out yesterday. We talked about it when we were saluting our best of the weekend. There was going to be a new team ranked number 1 in 3A football, and there is, and it's Bismarck Legacy, which I believe, according to my records, they're not always accurate. I try to make them, that they've not been ranked number 1 before in high school football in the state of North Dakota. They've had their program for about a decade, and now they sit number 1 at 3-0. And you look at what the Sabers have done. Their schedule to start the year, you could argue, was the hardest in North Dakota in 3A football. Look what they did to start the year. They had to go to Cheyenne, won that game by 2 touchdowns. Follow that up, another trip to West Fargo, and eked out a 1-point win against the Packers. Then you come back home, and you have to play the number 1 team in the state, and you beat them by 2 scores. I mean, that's not easing into 2025. That is awfully impressive. They've got a biggie this coming Friday with Horace coming, which you're going to hear from Chris Clements here in a few minutes about that. And then it's on to the actual league schedule. Because you know the game with Bismarck is huge. The game with Century. And they end with Mandan to wrap up the season. But if you've got the 3 wins that they have in their back pocket, they're playing with a ton of confidence. And after moving to the number 1 ranking, I had a chance this morning before Hot Mike got going to visit with Chris Clements, the only coach that Legacy has had, about the start, about what they've done on the field, and now expectations changing after moving to the number 1 ranking.
You know, I think our kids set some lofty goals after last year. And they had a great spring, had a great summer. And, you know, I think that the commitment that they made is showing through what we've done their first 3 games. You know, this is the same group that they played as sophomores, and they had an 0-9 season. And they're a pretty talented group. And I think they went undefeated when they were freshmen, and they knew what they were capable of. So, you know, kudos to them for setting the tone and setting the culture and you know, what they've done so far.
You mentioned what happened a couple years ago. Did that toughen them up for what you have now?
I think it was a shock to them, yeah. You know, we kind of coaches were talking, and you know, it's a really gritty group. They've been through a lot of adversity, and they've had a lot of perseverance through that adversity. So, you know, you couple that with there's some natural talent there, and it's a pretty good thing. You know, on the other side of it, you know, everybody seems to be a little bit bigger than we are, but you know, that's you can't control that. So it's one of those things where they know that their grit has to carry them through.
I know you guys aren't the young kids anymore. Tell me about that mentality of, okay, hey, that was a while ago. We're not the young guys in the WDA or in North Dakota anymore. That now we're an established program. It's time for us to do something and start winning some games.
Well, I think that happened a couple of years ago when we got to host our first playoff game.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, the following year we went 0-9, and so that being said, that when those types of things happen, then you got to kind of have to take a step back and regroup and all those things. And you know, we tell our kids, everybody wants to see you fail. Nobody wants to see you have success. So you have to go out and earn it every day, what you do.
Describe this process. You've been there from the beginning. How personally gratifying is this? Now, I know
We're still in September, but you're ranked number one. Just is there some satisfaction that you've been there for this whole ride?
Well, I don't think that there's, obviously I'm happy for our kids. The rankings don't mean anything. The only ranking that means anything is the one at the end of the year. So what I told the kids is now we have an unbelievable bullseye on our chest, and we're going to get everybody's best shot. So, and everybody wants to see you guys fail. Everybody wants to knock you off. Okay. You guys, they understand what it took to get here. Now they have to accept the challenge and strive to remain in.
Chris, to get a win though, beating Davies, describe that of getting over the hump and beating them and the way you did, scored 40 points on them on Friday night.
Well, for the first couple series, we were like, oh boy, here we go again. It's one play and score and one play and score. I think they had 3 plays with 150 yards and 3 or 2 touchdowns or whatever it was. But just the grit that our kids showed, the perseverance to battle back and get stops when we needed to. Was really proud of our defense staff and how they adjusted things. And I think Davies was like 1 of 7 or 2 of 8 on third down. Those are big things that we look at. You got to get off the field in those situations. But it's gratifying and satisfying to me as a coach to witness what they are doing on the field at that time. Our first 3 games have not been easy. You got to go to West Fargo 2 weeks in a row. And you got Davies coming to your place. It's been tough, and this week's no different. Horace they won a state title last year. Those kids know how to win. They beat Todd's team 35-14. We got another team coming in this week.
Well, I wanted to ask about that, going out here back-to-back weeks and having the kind of performances you did. Just what did that do confidence-wise for this group? Say, okay, I know it's not WDA games yet, but we went and done it.
Well, I think we talk to the kids about we want to play fast, we want to play physical, and all the time. And I think we've done that. We got first week we played pretty well. Second week had to come from behind to win. That showed the perseverance. This last week we had to come from behind to win. Showed the perseverance. So I look at them and I say they have the don't flinch mentality, and they don't. They just keep playing. Coaches have to make adjustments and those things. With Davies, you can't emulate what they do. So it's very, very difficult. Especially we don't have that size, and so we had to. It took us a while to get used to what they were doing in live game action. But in practice, you can't do that. So, kudos to Wayne for running the offense that he does run because it's hard to prepare for sure.
You have everything the big goals in front of you. Tell me about that, knowing you got Minot, Bismarck, Century, Mandan, all still to come about, okay, the heavy hitters are great what we did, but our goals are still all out in front of us here.
Well, we'll get to them when we get to them. They'll be here soon enough. This week's all about Horace. That's what it's about. So we'll focus on Horace, and we got to get better at practice today and tomorrow, and come ready to play on Friday night.
I want to ask you, I've talked to Gibby, I've talked to Wingenbach about this. I haven't asked you about the level of football in Western North Dakota. Tell me about why it's gotten so good, at least in my mind, so quickly over the last 4 to 5 years.
I think that you're seeing a lot of adaptations to the game. I think that it's not Wayne's offense anymore. That's here. You're seeing a little adaptation in what people are running offensively and defensively. I think that's been a big part of it. But you look at Minot's had success. Chauncey's done a good job up there. There's been success all over. So Todd's had success over in Mandan. Yeah, it's just so you kind of have to. If you want to keep up with the Joneses, you gotta adapt and move on too. So I think then kudos to what those guys are doing out east too, because they put up some unbelievable teams also. Jeremy's had a great run, Wayne's had a great run. Troy's recruiting. It's those things. So that's we'll just leave it there, and I think that. Everybody's trying to keep up with each other.
I got to ask you, I know you want to probably specify on one guy, but I got to interview Jack Julson when he committed to MSUM. Tell me about kind of player Jack has been for you, and how can he project to the next level for the Dragons?
Well, he's very dynamic, very dynamic. Fast, can jump. He's got great size. So he's a great receiver, but he's also a great corner. So it's, he's multi-dimensional. He wants to play receiver in college. I think he might make a better corner or safety, but we'll kind of see what happens there. But he's pretty excited about Moorhead, and he has a teammate there right now, Kellen Lucas, that's getting varsity reps. So. Or first reps in his first year of college, so that's a big thing too. So he's very dynamic, and he makes plays. We got a few guys like that right now.
I want to add, last thing before I let you go, and I really appreciate you doing this morning. Just to have your program be at a level where college are stopping by, they're paying attention to you. How big a deal was that for you personally? To say, okay, we want to be successful. We want to be good on the field. We also want to produce guys that can go play at the next level.
Well, I think me being a college coach for 16 years of my life, it's you always want to see kids, if they want to move on and play. Football's football wherever it's at. It doesn't matter if it's D3, NAIA, D2, wherever. But if kids want to go on and play, we'll help them get there any means possible. So, that being said, it's awesome when you have kids in your program that are going on and play, and we can show the guys that this kid's playing here and this kid's playing here, and they're having success in those things. But I just wish there was a few more of them that would go on and play. You got your entire life to work and make money. Go enjoy it while you can.
Great stuff there from Chris Clements. Visited with him this morning. Legacy head football coach, and you look at the sports that they've had some great success with. Girls basketball, Jim Petrick's team won the state championship, almost a decade ago now. Jason Horner and boys basketball has been really solid. They've had to. Football had its breakthrough a couple years ago. They got to host a playoff game, but as you heard Chris say, they followed up. They were 0-9 after that, and it seems, just looking at it right now in the WDA and maybe in all of 3A football, that I don't know if wide open is the right word, but there's opportunity. They've been playing varsity football at Legacy. 2015 was their first year. The following year, they made the playoffs. 2016, they went 6-4. They made the playoffs 3 years running after that. 2022 was the year that Chris was mentioning, that they got Davies out there and lost that game in the quarterfinals. And then 2023, they didn't win a game. Followed up last year, they go 5-5, made the playoffs again, lost to Cheyenne in the opening round. That they have been through it now, got a group of players that have been together for a bit, that maybe this is their time. We'll see. Century appears that maybe they're off a little bit. Mandan doesn't have the horses that they had of a season ago. Bismarck is going to be heard from, I would think. But if you go and beat the three teams they beat out of the East, you got my attention, and I think you got everybody else's attention as well. Especially if you're winning on the road at Cheyenne and in West Fargo, and you beat Davies and you didn't squeak by him, you beat him by 10, you got everybody's attention in my mind. I personally, I think they're going to be heard from by the time we get to late October, which to me, new blood, let's go. I'd like to see somebody else make it to that Final Four, make a run to get to the Dakota Bowl. I'm sure for that school, for that section of fans, they'd love nothing more to make a deep run and maybe beat some of the rivals in the process. Appreciate Chris giving us a few minutes there, former Mary assistant, and giving us a few minutes to talk about his team, which is off to a dynamite start. We'll break. We come back. We got a bunch of emails to catch up on, a couple of other breaking sports topics to get to, including the Natural has passed. Back on Hot Mic right after this.